The new Barbie movie. Was it a feminist dream? We'll unpack it next. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to unpack everything there is behind the new Barbie movie. The Barbie doll is one of the most iconic dolls of our lifetime. It was such a huge part of everybody's childhood, including mine. I played with so many different Barbies. I had the Barbiedreamhouse, the Barbie Corvette, everything that you could imagine. Outfits, closets for her. It was just amazing. So I wanted to do a little bit of research regarding how Barbie got started, just to learn a little bit more because I don't think I ever dove into that. So just a little backstory. Barbie was invented in 1959 by a woman named Ruth Handler. She recognized there was like a gap in the market. I guess at the time, only baby dolls were offered, which had little girls imagining themselves as only caregivers. Now, in my opinion, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, as most women are nurturing by nature, and it's just something that we enjoy doing. I enjoyed playing with baby dolls when I was a little girl, enjoyed taking care of them and mothering them. So Ruth created this three-dimensional doll that girls could imagine their future selves. She was also the first president of the toy manufacturer Mattel, who distributes Barbie, from 1945 until 1975. We are introduced to the movie with a really weird opening, which now makes more sense now that I know the background of the creator of Barbie. It is an opening scene where a bunch of young girls are bashing baby dolls because they saw Margot Robbie, or Barbie, appear before them. And she was much more enticing to play with than the baby dolls. So we damaged the baby dolls. Barbie was created as a strong female icon for kids to look up to. Barbie has offered broader representations of race, body type, and careers over the years. She has evolved over the years in such a positive way and showed girls that they could be anything without having to also hate men. The introduction to Barbie Land and watching Margot Robbie transform into Barbie was very fulfilling. I watched my childhood come alive on the screen, and it looked beautiful. They introduced all of the Barbies by giving us a tour of the land. We saw all different sorts of Barbies, all different ethnicities. It was beautiful. I really enjoyed that part. I thought that was very well done because there are so many different Barbies, and it's appropriate to be able to see yourself in a Barbie because so many Barbies have been made to represent all the different little girls out there. And I find that messaging to be just fine, because this is a long-standing doll. It's been around since the 1960s. This is when we're introduced to Ken, and Ken is a simp the entire movie. It really is disappointing to see what a simp Ken is for Barbie. I played with Ken dolls, of course, and my Ken was always a strong male to Barbie, and they were a couple. They did things together. Nobody was stronger than the other, and he was a husband father figure, and he also was somebody who went to work. And my Barbies stayed home and took care of the kids and played in the kitchen and played in the Barbie house. So I don't see why we need to make Ken such a simp, and he can't be a strong male figure in this because we don't want the men to look too strong in this movie, believe me. Kens are fighting over Barbie, and Ken decides to show off for Barbie, and he slams himself into a plastic wave because this Ken in the movie is Beach Ken. So he doesn't really have any jobs, any titles. He's not the lifeguard. He's just a beach Ken. So he hurts himself because he's trying to show off for Barbie, and Barbie is next to him, and she feels bad for him. She invites him to a party later that night. Of course, every night at the Barbie house is going to be a party. If you played with Barbies, you always were having fun doing parties. So this is when the dance scene comes in, and I really enjoyed this. It was very colorful, it was very sparkly, and I enjoyed it a lot. But the party soon comes to a halt when Barbie has this random thought of dying. And it was really kind of out of left field, but this is what starts the whole progression of the movie. The night ends and Barbie decides to go to bed, and she wakes up the next morning and things are not normal. Everything is off. She now has bad breath. Her hair is disheveled. Her water is cold in the shower. She dresses just fine, but she just notices that her morning routine is off. Everything is different. So she ends up going to the beach to hang out with her friends, and she takes her shoes off and she notices that her feet go flat. And that is the very first sign that as a Barbie doll, you're malfunctioning. Beside herself, everybody starts barfing, and they tell her that she needs to visit Weird Barbie. Weird Barbie is Kate McKinnon, and she lives up on a hill away from the Barbie land. And she is basically portrayed as the Barbie doll, where a kid, somebody who maybe wasn't too fond of Barbies, decided to cut all the Barbie's hair off, color it different colors, draw on their face with Sharpie, dress them in mismatched clothes. That is Kate McKinnon. So she has to go visit her because she's malfunctioning. And apparently Kate McKinnon, Weird Barbie, has the solution to this problem. She's told that a portal has opened up in the real world and Barbie has to go find out who or what human is doing this to her. And she has to find her human. Against her will, decides to go. And now they're going to woke California. Barbie was going to go by herself, but Simp Ken decides that he has to be everywhere Barbie is because Ken is nothing without Barbie. So Ken joins the adventure with Barbie, and during this entire adventure, and they went through a bunch of different scenes, Barbie was always in control and Ken always looked like he was a dawdling idiot and didn't know what was going on. So the depiction of Ken throughout this movie was very, very sad. They get to the real world and they just decide that they're going to try to fit in, but it's much, much different. And Barbie can't understand why there's so many men doing all these different jobs. There was a construction site full of men. She didn't understand where the women were. She just couldn't comprehend any of this. They go through a bunch of different trials and tribulations. They get arrested a few times. They finally get to the point where they're going to start figuring out why they're there. So Barbie and Ken split up, and because Ken wants to go and roam the real world, and Barbie's got to figure out why she's there. So Barbie's sitting on a bench and she decides to start having thoughts and trying to figure out where her human is and what happened. During this time, Ken is off in his own world and he starts to see how men are represented in the real world. He is seeing men coming out of gyms that are working out together. He's seeing very manly men. He walks into this building, and I'm not sure what this building was. I didn't catch it. But there were men everywhere, strong, powerful men being represented. And there was a screen somewhere in the building that was showing visuals of strong men. There was President Clinton, there was Ronald Reagan, there were visions of money or pictures of money that had, of course, all men on it. And then there was a film montage, and I caught the part where, and like I said, when you take notes during a movie, it's hard to catch everything, but there was a depiction of Rocky. So strong, powerful men are being portrayed, and he is now seeing this, and he's like, wow, this is so much different from Barbie Land. I've got to figure out how to bring this to Barbie Land. He walks outside of the building and he sees two cops on horses, and that's when everything, light bulb comes up in the head, and he's like, okay, two things, patriarchy all of a sudden, and horses. Those are his two main goals. And the word patriarchy was used so many times unnecessarily. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. While Ken is figuring out where his place is in Barbie Land, Barbie has now realized where her human is. Her human is now at a middle school or high school. She looks very young, but it was, of course, that type of setting. So Barbie and Ken reunite to go to the school together. And instead of Ken telling Barbie what he realized, he just walks along with Barbie and lets Barbie run the show. They go to the school. They run into the girl. Girl has a chip on her shoulder. Barbie goes up to her and introduces herself, and the girl is just disgusted beyond belief. She is so angry at Barbie and almost blames Barbie for all of her downfalls in life, and like everything is Barbie's fault. It was very off-putting, but the kid was just so angry. And I didn't catch anybody's names. I don't remember anybody's names, to be honest with you, because I was so hyper-focused on the messaging of the story. I didn't even pay attention to the characters and their names. It was ridiculous. So here are a few things that were mentioned during this scene, which was absolutely disgusting. Barbie was referred to as a bimbo. Playing with Barbies just sucked. Barbies are sexual capitalism. They set back feminism, and my absolute favorite is that Barbie was a fascist. I can't even believe that they put those words in this. It was just So off-putting, I can't even tell you. The FBI now realizes that Barbie and Ken are missing, and they have to notify Mattel headquarters, the creators of Barbie. Will Ferrell is, of course, the CEO of Mattel. When it is brought to their attention, the boardroom for Mattel, they're having a meeting, is full of men in suits. Okay. The secretary for Will Ferrell happens to be America Ferrera. And it is then brought to our attention that she is drawing these weird drawings of Barbie. Okay, so starting to put a couple of things together. So at this point, Will Ferrell is like, we have got to capture Barbie. We have to get Barbie. This is no good. This is going to ruin everything. So somehow they end up finding her at the school where the young girl was. Well, ironically, the little girl is America Ferrera's daughter, and she's just an angry, angry little girl. She hates everything. She hates her mom, and she gets into the car with America Ferrera, and they see Barbie being taken somewhere else. And America Ferrera is starting to freak out because she's like, oh my gosh, that's Barbie, and we need to rescue her. I want to say it was at this point where America Ferrera, or her daughter, I want to say it was the daughter, mentioned that being a strong, beautiful woman is a bad thing because, you know, she sees Barbie, she's calling her stupid. She's saying, I don't know what's wrong with that girl, but, you know, being a strong, beautiful woman like that is not necessarily the right thing. And it was just disgusting. So you've got this scene going on. And during this time, Ken decides he is going to go back to Barbie land, and he is going to bring everything that he learned from the real world to Barbie land. He is going to tell him about the patriarchy. He's going to tell him about the horses, and he's going to get things rolling. Once Barbie is captured and brought to the Mattel headquarters, she is talking to Will Ferrell. And like I said, there's a bunch of men in charge. There's one woman. So, you know, now that Mattel has captured Barbie, they want to put Barbie back into the box that she came in. And they keep asking her to go into the box. Now, I'm 100% certain that that's a euphemism of how men want to control women by putting them in their box. They want to suppress them. It's definitely a point I heard, and it was very, very irritating. Barbie catches on, and she realizes what's going on. Barbie escapes, and America Ferrera rescues her. So now she's the powerful woman. She outruns a bunch of men. And during this, Barbie discovers that America Ferrera started playing with her daughter's Barbies again. And because she was sad and wanted to be closer to her daughter, Barbie started malfunctioning, because usually when you play with Barbies, you're happy. And this is when we find out that is why she drew the pictures of Barbie with cellulite and thoughts of death. And so now we know exactly where the movie is going. So during this escape from the Mattel men who wanted to put Barbie back in the box, the daughter had to mention that in the real world, women hate women and men hate women. I'm not really sure why she had to mention that, but I think it was something to do with, why are the men chasing us? And of course, anytime we can throw anything in there, we will. So during Barbie's adventure with the Mattel, you know, people trying to kidnap her, I mentioned Ken decides to go back to Barbie land, and he creates his own patriarchy because men are shit in Barbie land and take a backseat to the women. He's doing that. Barbie decides that she needs to take America Ferrera and her daughter back to Barbie land in order to make whatever wrongs right again and to keep her from malfunctioning. So they're on their way back. They take the adventure back, and they show up and they realize that the entire Barbie land is now Ken land. Everything has been changed. There's Ken dolls everywhere. And Ken, Ryan Gosling Ken, has now taken over the entire Barbie dream house, and she is pissed. There comes one point when America Ferrera is talking to Barbie about how they took over Barbie land, and she actually compares what Ken has done to Barbie land to what was done to the indigenous people. I don't understand why we even have to put that in to a Barbie movie, but there it is. As they're driving through and seeing all of the changes that the Kens have made, they come to find out that all the women have been brainwashed by the Kens because they aren't in their high and mighty, strong female positions anymore. Like, for example, the female president of Barbie land is now serving beer to men on the beach. So is that supposed to represent how men look at us, that we're just these bimbos who serve men stuff? I mean, the way that we were portrayed was ridiculous. When we were brainwashed by men, we were portrayed as dumb, powerless females who just catered to men. And I did not appreciate that. I thought that was really stupid because that's not a proper representation of women, in my opinion. So after this is all discovered, they all kind of get together, and the ones that haven't been brainwashed and Weird Barbie all get together and decide that they're going to take over Barbie Land. And America Ferrera at this point makes a huge speech convincing all of the Barbies to take back Barbie Land. She ran her mouth for several minutes, and I can't tell you the things that she said. I couldn't even write fast enough. It got to be so ridiculous and so cringy. This is what she said. So she said the following things. It's impossible to be a woman. We're always doing it wrong. Women need to be pretty for men. The whole system is rigged. And women tie themselves in knots so other people will like us. Never thought any of those things when being a woman, but okay. And they referred to Margot Robbie Barbie as the white savior Barbie, which was just so ridiculous. It was absurd. They all decide to use their beauty and sexuality and act helpless and confused to rescue the brainwashed Barbies. So what they're going to do is they're going to go up and they're going to act confused and helpless to the men and have them think that they have all the power over them. At this point, patriarchy has been used so many times that it is comical at this point. All of the Barbies end up getting unbrainwashed because of this whole plan. And the very last Ken that needs to be taken care of is Ryan Gosling's Ken. So Barbie seduced Ken into being her boyfriend, which once again made men look really bad. He wanted to sing a song to her on his guitar. The song choice for this song was a Matchbox 20 song, I Want to Push You Around. The lyrics of that song are so disturbing in this context of this part of the movie. I think it was once again another point that men push women around all the time. At this point, all of the Kens are singing this song to all of the Barbies. They're on the beach, and now they want to get all the Kens mad at each other. So they are going to all start flirting with each other's Kens so that the Kens will get mad at each other. This turns into a fight dance number, which I have to say was pretty enjoyable and resembled Grease a little bit. It was fine. Of course, they all made up in the end, but their plan is why the men were distracted fighting with each other, that the women were going to take back the patriarchy. They were going to pass their constitution once again and have Barbie Land back. So they used their bodies and they sexualized themselves because they also made themselves look ditzy in order to get the attention of the Kens. So I think this made everybody look bad, in my opinion. So basically, the Barbies decided to act like bimbos, use their sexuality, flirt with the Kens, distract them enough in order to take back their land. So is that feminism right there? Portraying yourself as a weak woman to get what you want? Not really sure. So now that the Kens have realized that the women have taken back Barbie Land, the patriarchy, the Constitution, and everything, Ken realizes he's been fooled. He cries that he is nothing without Barbie. Barbie says, no, Ken, you're just Ken. You have to find yourself. And Ken is like, no, I'm only Ken because of you, Barbie. And it just goes back and forth until Barbie has to convince Ken that he's more than just Ken. He is just Ken, not Barbie's Ken. He's just Ken. Except Ken was created for Barbie, and I don't understand why we can't have the unity between them. A strong female and a strong male make a strong couple. I just think that would have been a really beautiful message at the end, because Ken thinks he only exists because of Barbie. Well, it's kind of true, because Barbie came first and then came Ken. So at this point, America Ferrera suggests to make an ordinary Barbie because God forbid we have any Barbies that are out of the ordinary. Does it send a bad message? Who the hell knows? And now that the movie is ending, Barbie needs to figure out what's next for her. Barbie's ending is not with Ken. She just has no ending. And so as she's having this conversation, you also pan over to Ken, who is wearing a sweatshirt that says, I am Kenough. Kenough. I am Kenough. It's so cringy. You guys, it's so cringy. So now that Barbie has saved Barbie land from patriarchy, chooses to become real. Just randomly. Even though the real world was really not as exciting as she thought. Barbie land was the place she wanted to be. It was happy all the time. There was emotions in the real world. She just decides that she wants to become real. So we get to the ending scene where Barbie is apparently living with America Ferrera, and the husband of America Ferrera, who we saw one time during the movie, and he's learning Spanish. He's a white dude trying to learn Spanish because of America Ferrera, and it's just so out of left field. It's so stupid. So he's in the car trying to speak Spanish to Margot Robbie as they're dropping Margot Robbie off somewhere. Margot Robbie gets out of the car, and she's wearing a blazer. She's not like all girled up anymore. She's wearing Birkenstocks. She walks into an office, introduces herself as Barbara Handler, which AKA is who she was named after. Barbara Handler was Ruth Handler's daughter, and that's how she chose the name Barbie. She goes to the gynecologist. That is the first thing she chooses to do when she becomes real, is go to a gynecologist. And that's how the movie ends. There's so much to take from this movie. It was a male-bashing mess. It made me feel all sorts of different ways. It made me angry, much like The Little Mermaid. It screwed with one of my childhood memories, an icon from my childhood. It turned it into an absolute feminist nightmare, and it wasn't necessary. They ruined another perfectly great opportunity to just have an amazing movie about bringing an iconic doll from our childhood to life. They're never going to learn. They're never going to get out of their own way. I should have known going into this it was going to be a feminist mess, but they really did hide all of this by not portraying it in the trailers. I mean, the amount of verbal garbage that was spewed by the female characters in this movie was so off-putting and so insulting. I do not agree with any of this movie. I 100% think that women, strong women, can have a strong man by their side and can be just as important. We do need men in this world. And I don't know if these women that think this way can't find a good, decent man, but I've found one, and I'm very happy with him. And I can still be myself. I can be a strong woman and still be married, be a mom, be a wife, be a friend. It doesn't change who you are by having a strong man next to you. And who cares about having strong men? We need strong men in order to function in this society. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I have to say it was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I've never felt that many type of ways. And it was a mess. It was a mess, but it was a feminist's wet dream for sure. Anyway, please leave a like if you can, a comment on what you thought of this video. And I am so appreciative of you guys stopping by today to watch my review on the Barbie movie 2023. I'll see you next time.